All right, guys, here on Saturday, monkeying around a little bit. I'm gonna do some work on the shorty. For you guys that aren't following that or just watching this video for this, building a regular cab short box truck, second gen shortened frame with a P-Pump 6.7 in it. That's it right there, the frame right there. So we're working on that this afternoon. So if you're interested in that, hit up that series. It's the shorty build on my channel. Anyways, talking about AFCs. So this pump here, which I'm actually sending out to be rebuilt, but I was wondering, I was checking to see whether this diaphragm was bad, which it's not bad, but not great. But I wanted to know why. So I pulled it apart, and somebody's been in here monkeying around, and the issue, if you guys are doing this, so I thought I would show, get this set up here, I'll have to hold on to it. If you are setting, or if you're going to do a AFC spring kit, which is, this is the kit that I sell, and these two washers. As soon as the website is up, they will be on there for purchase. So hold on a sec here, I just want to make sure that I get these all back together the right way, or I'll be losing stuff here. Because they do have washers. All right, so now when you're doing this kit, it is not really that hard. So this is what it looks like together. Your AFC housing, or aneroid is what it's actually called. So air fuel control. And basically all it does is this hooks to your intake. For you guys that don't know, this hooks to your intake. It pressurizes this with air. Your diaphragm, which sits inside here, which usually has this in the middle of it, obviously to block the air, and all it does is it pressurizes this and shoves it in, which in turn, this is your AFC foot, and all it does, sits in there like that, all it does is meters how much fuel you can get before you have boost, or versus how much boost you have. So it's really not a very complicated rig, really. It's very, very simple. But if you're going to modify this yourself, you have to be kind of careful. So the washers that we use are smaller than the original ones, and they don't have this big edge on them. So I took this one apart because when I had it running, like I said, the injection pump has an issue. It's not moving fuel on number 5, but that has nothing to do with the AFC. It was leaking oil out of the boost reference line, which can be a bad deal. If it was leaking like that and you were sitting there idling and it was hooked to the intake, this one was not hooked to the intake. If it was hooked to the intake, you would be pumping oil into your intake. That's a bad deal. This is a really easy way to have engine issues, especially like at an idle. Well, I guess technically, actually, it would pump oil in there all the time, because most guys aren't going to make 50 to 70 pounds of pressure. I don't know if there'd be that much pressure in there. There'd definitely be 10 to 15 pounds for sure, especially idled up. But anyways, if you're doing this, you have to make sure that you're not leaking oil out of here, because if you leak oil out of there, you can have a very bad day with a runaway. So the way I took this apart, what they had on here was this washer, which just, well, it doesn't, I shouldn't say, there you go. It goes over top of that edge. So basically, this is what was happening. And you can't clamp down on it, which in turn is going to make it leak oil. And this wouldn't have worked. So that would have been super handy. So, pretty easy to put together. All you do is put your spring on there. Make sure you get your diaphragm the right way. It's not too hard. There's a big ridge on it, which fits inside, which fits right there, basically, in that edge. It's pretty simple. Now, before you put this back together, I'll put this completely back together so I can show you how it goes together. Obviously, I've already taken it apart, but you see how it comes apart. And then I guess I can rip it apart after. I have to take it apart and replace this, and I don't have a new one anyway. So you do want to shave this down. This isn't a mandatory thing. You know, if you're running a fuel plate, it doesn't really make too much of a difference unless you have an extremely modified fuel plate. But if you're in there, you might as well do the modification. So you want to cut 2 millimeters off of this, which is what, in, let's say, 1/16 of an inch. I think that's about 2 millimeters. Not very good at, I do everything as standards, but lots of guys don't. So anyways, you want to cut 2 millimeters off there, half or a quarter of an inch or so, or sorry, a 1/16 of an inch or so. Now, put this diaphragm together. Like I said, if your diaphragm is ripped, replace your diaphragm. You can buy these kits. I will have the kits as well on my website for you guys that are looking. Oop, as I knock camera over. And this doesn't need to be like screaming tight, but you want it to be tight, obviously. The nut. And I would usually put a drop of Loctite on it, but being that I'm going to be taking this apart, I'm not going to. So, you know, diaphragm's tight. Good. Now on this one, with these kits, what I always do is I start with my star wheel down in as far as it'll go. So towards the front of the engine as far as it'll go. And then I adjust it from there. So put your diaphragm and rod back in. Now you see the notch in the rod. The notch in the rod needs to go down. So it's facing like that. You guys can see that very well. So that you can put your AFC foot back in. And then this is your height adjustment for your foot. And if you buy a kit, it'll come with this O-ring too. You should probably replace that if you're in there. And it will be this bolt. Now, for you guys that don't know, usually what I do is, this one was already like that, cranked. It's usually where I'll put it anyway. But this is an adjustment, and if you watch this foot when I move it from side to side, maybe hard to tell in the video, but it goes up and down. If you do it, you know, if you do it and stand there, you can watch it. The easiest way, if you want to make sure that it's riding in the right spot, obviously the lower it is, the farther down on the foot, if you see the angle on the foot, but you want to make sure that the rod is actually hitting it. But if you just take it out of your truck, if you look on it, you can see where there's a little, I don't know if you can, yeah, you can kind of see it in the video. Yeah, there's a little wear mark. So if you put it back where it was, it's going to hit in the same spot, or very close anyway. You tighten that up. Now, pretty simple. Like I said, this isn't rocket science. You just make sure you do it AKA properly, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word for it or not, but, and then the kit comes with some bolts. They come with some bolts. I actually prefer these bolts just to get her old. But the kit will come with, I just realized that I just grabbed a handful of some bolts and I grabbed the wrong one. It should have been, I grabbed these ones and they should have been the shorter ones. So anyways, that is all there is to putting it back together. Now doing adjustment, I'll do another video on adjustment versus this, because there's a bunch that goes into that, but not really very hard. But I want to set up a little test stand so that I can show you guys, you know, the amount of movement and what you gain, what you don't gain. So, oh, I guess I can blow it apart. I'll blow it apart quick. So if you're taking it apart, usually you're going to have one of these on that housing. On the back of the aneroid, you'll have one of these somewhere, which is just a tamper-proof bolt. And this one, usually you can grab it with a pair, if it's off, you can usually grab a pair of vice grip, or yeah, a little pair of vice grips, and you can turn it out. If you can't do that, if it's on the truck or whatever, if it's on the truck, I just recommend taking it off. But usually what I'll do is I'll just take a die grinder or a hacksaw or something, and I cut a slot in it, and then you can turn this out. Usually they're not super, super tight. And then the other ones are just a standard screwdriver, slot, whatever you want to call it. Pull it off the back. And then there will be sometimes a tamper-proof cap on here. The same idea. It will have, if you want to get that off, you will have this, which is tamper-proof, and then just one standard holding it on. So pull this back apart again. And obviously I just have this part that comes apart easy. Usually this this adjustment here, let's see if it's going to be a bastard or not. Sometimes, oh no, sometimes they're hard to get out. Usually what I do is I just rotate it around until you can get it right there, and then pour out. Comes out. This comes out. Like I said, they're a very, very simple. They're not very much to them. Like I said, super, super, super simple stuff. So I don't know if I really need to explain much more than that. But like I said, if you are going to do it, I would recommend buying a kit, or if you're not going to buy a kit, whatever floats your boat, just make sure that you use the right size washer here, because doing something like this can be a bad deal. And I hate to see a guy blow up his truck because of a 15-cent washer. And that's like a potential. You potentially could blow your truck up. So don't do that. Anyways, like, subscribe, hit me down in the comments. Catch us on the next one.